Good morning. Welcome to Information Architecture. I hope your week is going well. We are already midweek and first week of February. Time flies. It will be a very short semester, particularly for this class because we're doing a full semester in half of a semester. So I understand that there is a lot of content. Things probably feel very busy for you, but I hope you're enjoying the class. So welcome, and today we have two topics. So we will continue with categorization. So how do we structure a site, and then the concept of categorization. How do we define categories, and how do we come up with categories as well? We're going to do an exercise around that for the first hour, and then the second hour we're going to talk about card sorting. And tomorrow's session is going to be a lab. So we're going to do a lab. This week's lab, which is on week 3. Which is typically we do the session on the following Tuesday. Tomorrow will be our lab about the cart sorting, and there will be a submission. So very important to attend if you can. If you cannot, then you will have to either listen to the session or do the lab after this today's class if you want. But there will be submission for 5 p.m. tomorrow. But I believe once you see what the assignment is, you will feel that it's all achievable. And this is very critical because we have an assignment for cart sorting, which is due for next week as well. So we cannot wait to Tuesday of next week because I'd like to be able to give you feedback on how you do with your cart sorting. That's the reason why I'd like to have a submission. But we're going to talk more about it tomorrow. But if you can't make the session, that's great. I know some of you have an hour overlap with another class. That's okay, but it's not difficult. Cart sorting is not difficult, but if you can and if you want to attend, that will be awesome. But if you cannot, you'll have to find time to do the lab, and perhaps that might be today or this afternoon if you want as well. So up to you. So this morning we're going to continue with the categorization discussions that we talked about last week. There are many things that we need to take into account when we do categorization. Now, before we go into categorization, I want to remind you that I have posted for week 1, the labs of week 1. I have posted answers to the heuristic lab practice about Metro. So the lab practice in the week 1 we had 2 labs, which is very unusual. But there was a practice one. In case you're not very familiar with heuristic, I provided a sample answers for Metro, the grocery store, and then I also provided answers to airmiles.ca. So I hope you went through the lab for airmiles.ca. Airmiles is a very good example of what not to do when it comes to information architecture, and I have provided a sample answer about airmiles. So I spent a lot of time on really doing the exercise on my own and really trying to capture the essence of what the assignment is trying to achieve. So I really hope that you do spend time to go through the sample answers. Not only will help you to see how I think, but it will help you it will guide you to somehow what I may expect in the assignment as well, in the structure, and what you should be paying attention to. But if you look at the Air Miles website, I think you'll get a lot of insight. And my recommendation for Air Miles would be to actually really completely rethink their information architecture. Rethink the IA and rethink about everything that we've talked about when it comes to the user and the user goals and what the users are trying to do. And then coming up with categories and labels that will make sense to the user, and probably going through like a full cart sorting exercise as well, which we will discuss today and which we will do in the lab. But it's very broken. But then it's not enough to say it's broken. How is broken? So I hope you will get a sense that yes, there is material for Airmiles to reconsider their information architecture, provided everything that I have given as examples. But it all starts by the user. So for those of you that have done the lab, and for those of you that have done the lab, then I really highly recommend that you compare your answers to the sample answer. But again, there's no one answer. This is my review, but your team may actually come up with something completely different, but hopefully there'll be some overlaps. And that's why usually we have 2, 3, or 4 usability experts that are involved in an assessment or a review, so that we see things that someone else may not notice. I just realized the camera's not on. My apology. And so that we collectively collect everything that we found, and then we do the prioritization, and then we do some recommendation, which is what you've done and what you will do in some of your assignment as well. So sometimes you do a piece on your own, and then you come back to your team, and then collectively you bring all of your insights. So I have provided business goals. So really, when you go through the Air Miles site, you can actually guess what some of the business goal might be. I worked at Air Miles for about 2 years in the 90s, and I was in the call center. I was actually taking calls from collectors. They call them collectors, but those are members. But when you become a collector, you become very familiar with the language. But if you're not, you may not know what collector means. And then for each of the business or the prospect, customer, or collector, then we think of what the business goal is and what the prospect goal is, what the goal is for the collector or someone who's not a collector or someone who's a collector. And then I really take each of the goals and then I go through, and then you will see that there's a lot of material. So I did spend a lot of time on the IA, like the labels, and I actually almost wrote down the entire site architecture, at least the level 1 and level 2, so that you could visually see things that are actually redundant and things that are a bit confusing. And I put a lot of notes next to some of the labels that I have done. But you can really tell that Air Miles is having a challenge, probably because they're noticing that consumers actually are not getting to the areas that they should be. Air Miles knows that the content is available. They know that the information is available for the user, and they're actually not sure why users are not going. But the way that they've structured and the way that they combine some of the categories and the labels gives us a sign that they're actually struggling, and they're not really clear on where to put items. So they repeat items within the architecture as well. So I really encourage you to go through the insight and the details, and then see the kind of things that at some point, eventually you'll be able to pay attention to as experts, which will help you to rethink about how bad is the site, and is it just a matter of changing a few labels, or is it a matter of tweakings and really actually thinking how everything has been architected? I think they're in the latter scenario, which is to really rethink the architecture. So when you look at Air Miles' website, and that is also something that I've mentioned, it looks pretty good on surface, right? So I'm seeing questions on chat. I will come back. When you look at the site looks very conventional. It looks very clean, very white, very typical. Offers, travel. It looks like it's well divided up. But when you start going in and when you start doing something with it, when you start actually looking at it from the user point of view, this is where things get really, really broken. And then you will notice that they're using the death approach. So they don't have a lot of menus at the top. Menus, and you can see, and really the only really main navigation items that are relevant to the main bar is offer, rewards, and travel, and help as well. But help, no one goes to help really. The help, and when you look at the content here under help, self-serve tool. So the comment is, we are online. So we are online at this point. Obviously, everything that we do online is self-serve. So self-serve, and I think that's a very good example last week that I've mentioned about. Sometimes some categories don't make sense. They're not even useful, and I don't even know that they're needed. I think this is a very, very good example of saying not being relevant or not adding much value. So if you look at the help item under main navigation, they have a header called self-serve tool. So if you're online, yes, it is self-serve. Everything online is self-serve. And then under that, they have items called order cards, missing miles, recent transaction. This is not help. This is user goal. These are user goals. These are quick. These are reasons why I'm coming to this site. But they've hidden it under help. And what happens is help. A lot of people actually don't go to help because they don't think they needed help. It's like reading your instruction books when you buy something new. You've been using it, you've been to the website. The help is the last alternative, and if you even think of going to the help section. But what if instead they had a category that suggests that this is where you will find all of your order, or how you can order a card, how you can actually look for your missing miles, how you can do your transactions. It's available on the home page, but it's available when you scroll to the bottom. But why have a section called help that most people are not going to be inclined to click on, and people are not just going to your site to see what's available. They're not going to click necessarily to see what is available on the help. Some will, some will not. But and I go on and on. So there are a lot of insights that I think hopefully you will find useful. And I really encourage you to go through, look through, and then see. I put some screenshots as well, and then I think the overall site will really benefit from an incomplete architecture, and we think about the labels, and we think about how they've actually presented some of those options to consumer. And obviously, they would have to look at data and analytics to be able to do a good assessment. This is an assessment that I did without having access to all of the data and everything that Airmiles would have so that we could look. But I have a suspicious sense that they are struggling. They're having challenges, and I think they make the wrong choices. And they have structured their information architecture around the business and how they know their business. And I know that because I work there. And I know that offers is very, very common for them. An offer is what you get when you go to your partners, but maybe that's not offers in general, especially the new people that are coming to Airmiles. On offer special deals. So go through, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. So there was a question about how can we get the level of motivation and so on. So you have to pick a user goal. So you have to pick a user goal, and at some point, sometimes you have to make a choice, or you have to make a guess. So in my example, I believe I said the user goal. So the user wants to sign up for Airmiles. He's at home. He's probably watching TV, and he's been going to the gas station, and he's been going to the gas station quite often. And then he's been seeing Airmiles, and then he's always thought, why should I not? Why maybe I should get a card because I always gas. And I would say that's a typical scenario. How motivated? I think it's medium motivation. It's not like the end of the world if they don't sign up for today, but he's curious, and he's been engaged of thinking, but he hasn't just made that decision. So maybe in this case it doesn't make a big difference, but here if I'm a collector, so if I am an Airmiles member and I just bought a house with a real estate agent that is an Airmiles partner, and I knew that I would get 15,000 aeroplan miles, and I don't see my transaction, I'm highly motivated to actually find out where is my transaction. Okay, so I will be looking for that area where I can actually see where my miles are and see if they've been posted, and if they haven't been posted, then what can I do and what is my next action. So there I will be very motivated. I would be even more motivated if I need to have those 15 aeroplan miles to be able to redeem, to use my points to buy a TV. So you have to pick a user goal and then extrapolate or guess what you think the motivation will be, versus someone who's not a member yet and they've just been postponing and postponing and postponing. Perhaps maybe I have a vacation that is planned. I booked a vacation with Airmiles. I've used some points. I haven't received my tickets yet, and I'm traveling in 2 days. I'm highly motivated / panic. So that will give you a sense of how important and how engaged the users will be, right? So I hope that answers your question, Drek. And then it depends on the point of view, or should we do, and what should we do to get it. So I hope it's really helping. So it depends on the user goal. You have to think about what the user is trying to do. Put yourself in that. If you have user research, if you have personas, any insight that the business will give you, I think you will get a sense of how motivated are they to actually find the information and be able to do it on their own. Yeah, so that is a difficult part. But if you now know, if you're not sure about motivation at that point, then move on and then think about the next. So, but the most importantly is you have to think about the user type, the user type. When I say user type, I would probably at this level, I would say, is this a new customer, someone who's not, is it a prospect, someone who's a collector, Airmiles collector, and what will be some of the goals that they want to do. And then I pick one goal, and then I go and I try to do it, or I try to find it, I try to do it. But in this case, we were not doing a heuristic evaluation. We were really trying to pay attention to categories, but you have to think about the business and the business goal and the user goals. You have to think about the user goals. What do they know about this category? What do they know about offers? Do they even know what offers are? Remember, People are coming to Elmas with preconceived ideas of offers. I may have just gone to Sunwing and looked for travel, and then maybe I've heard about, if I sign up for Elmas, I'm gonna get points. Then I was looking at offers, I was looking at deals at Sunwing. Now I go to Elmas and there's something called offers and there's something called travel. So I'm already in a travel and an offer space. Now I go to Elmas. What is an offer? Is that like a special deal I get? No, it's actually what I get. When I go to gas and every time I put gas, I get a point by dollar, for example. This is their definition of offer. Is offer the right term? I don't know. So there's a lot of thinking, and this is why we would do cart sorting as well, because sometimes we just don't know. If we don't know the industry, we're not familiar. Even then, we have preconceived ideas, right? So so basically, it's a thing that we have to estimate based on their user group and their goal. Yes, absolutely, and the context of where they are as well sometimes, right? So, but absolutely, you will never go wrong by starting with the user and the user goal, and then you start thinking at that point, who are they? What do they know? What will they most likely be looking for? So if I'm looking to become a member, then I'm probably going to be looking for a place to call a member. Then I will read about what is the member, what do I get as a member, how do I get my points, how do I collect my points. You would start noting these items on cards, on probably postcards or post-it, and then you would start thinking about what will be some of the main areas and what you will need to absolutely support on your site. So this is how you build. This is how you build little by little your information architecture. You start with one user in one user group, and you think, great, join the program. I actually think that Elma should have their site should be structured about joining or joining. I would not say signing up, because signing up may be confused with sign up, right? Or create an account. So you have to be careful about that too. But given what they're trying to do, and I think, and also it's looking at the customer stages, right? So when we say user and user goal, remember the customer stages cycle. Are we trying to create awareness and get them to become a customer? And then when they're a customer, what are they trying to do? And then when they're about to no longer be a customer. Let's say that I am an AirMiles collector, but I don't really collect my points, and they know it. They will see if I use my cards. They want people to use their cards. They want people to get points. This is how they make money. This is how AirMiles make money. AirMiles make money when you actually collect points, and they also make money when you redeem. So they want you to collect. They want you to redeem. That's why they want you to collect so much. They want you to collect at multiple places as well, and they want you to have the credit card, because when you have the Air Miles credit card, for every dollar you get, I think, a point, and then if you buy gas with your card, then you get points from your card and you get points from the gas. So they all about points, getting you to collect. So and you're highly motivated. I will tell you, if you're a collector and you have thousands and thousands of points, you really collected, and you actually just shop at those places. And if you see that there's a point missing, they will be calling you. They'll be calling you, and they will be waiting on the phone until you tell them. So this is insight you would get, but they're highly motivated when they are a collector. So yes, you have to think about the user group, and the goals. It's always related to user and the user and user growth. And yes, awesome. So I hope this is helpful and insightful. And this eventually will lead us to the cart sorting, which is the topic that we're going to be talking about. So now we're going to go and continue some of our discussion from last week. I just want to make sure I have the most recent version. Bear with me. So I hope you've done the LMAS. If you haven't, then I hope you will find the information useful. Are there any other questions about the LMAS scenario, or how you should go about looking at the categories, or even thinking if the categories are helpful or not useful in helping the actual customer, or anything about the labs that we've discussed so far? Then that would be a good time. Okay, so just want to make sure that we've covered. So on the topic of structure, why do we care about structure? Why do we care about organizing the content? Why do we care about labels. Why do we care about structure? It's we as we said last week, and this is a little bit of a review. We want to bring order. We need to create some order. And right now, the LML site doesn't have much of order, and you will see. How what I meant by the lack of order. They actually repeat a lot of items in different categories as well. I think that's beyond wanting to give alternative. I think it's because people are so lost that they feel that they have to repeat items because consumers don't know which items to click to begin with. And think of it. So they have offers. I said offer could be a special. They have rewards. How is a reward different than an offers? If you think of it, if you don't know much about air miles, or even if you know about air miles, how is an offer different than the rewards? When you think of it, conceptually, I don't know. I suspect there even that is a challenge, right? So this is a kind of insight you will get from a cart sorting. You will get insight through the cart sorting of how people actually think of those terms, how they actually think of those elements under each ones, and then we're gonna ask them to group them. And then when they do this, we're gonna ask them to think aloud and tell us what happens when they see that offers. When they see offer, what is offer for them? You would actually get them to verbalize it, and you could actually write it down too. And then they'll see rewards, and then they'll see what is rewards, and then you ask them. You'll say, keep going, like, what do you think reward is? And then they say, well, is it the points? Is it not the points? Like, you're gonna get a bunch of words, and this is the only way to go about finding out their mental model about these things. And then they have this other item next to it called travel. Okay, great, travel. So I'm at Air Miles. I know that I can use my points to travel, but can I also book a travel? Is this where I book my travel? Is this where I get my points for travel? Like, it's really, really difficult. And I think there's a lot of guessing. So users probably go from one place to another place. And this is probably why they repeat items, so that at least whichever, if they click on offer, they click on rewards, or they click on travel, eventually they'll get the information. So you're going to see that there's a lot of things that are even being repeated. So why do we care about structure? We want predictability. We want people to feel that they're familiar. We want people to be able to do what they want to do. We want them to join the program. We want them to collect the miles. We want them to actually be able to find the information, and they will not have to call us. But right now, it's actually not doing that. I think it's creating probably more calls than really it should be. So structure is important. There were some best practices that we also talked about IAs last week, and I did a lot of reference to this little this little trees as well, and how we often navigate inside the trees, and how we should probably be moving items more to the top, because we just know that users want to do that often. This little help, where you can find how you can actually look for your missing miles, is hidden. It's a very, very good example of that they should probably have that at the very top level or the second level. But right now it's second, 3, and 3rd, but it's under 2 sections labeled the same. You will see help, I think, is listed 3 times. Travel is listed 4 times in that section. It's pretty bad. So they have no structure. We look at some example as well. So we talk about categories should be mutually exclusive, but yes, there will be time where it's hard to have mutual exclusivity for multiple reasons. And sometimes it's okay to maybe have the same item repeated in 2 places, but that should be an exception and not the rule, like Air Miles has done it. So you will see that there will be categories that are specific to your industry. We'll do an exercise this morning on that. You need to be as descriptive as possible. So, to my point when I said to Air Miles, when you go to Air Miles and you see offers, rewards, travels, these seem to be very reasonable labels. But when you look at it from the consumer point of view, specific to the Air Miles business, they're not descriptive. They're actually confusing. And maybe offers is not the best term. Knowing what we know about Air Miles and what they try to do. And then how would you solve for this? Then you could look at Aeroplan. How is Aeroplan solving? How are other rewards programs solving? How is Shopper Drug Mart solving? Shopper Drug Mart has 10 million members in Canada. They must be doing some things good too. So that is another program that you may want to look. I think it's called, is it Optimum, or I'm confusing with Loblaws? But it's one of the other. They have 10 million members. Air Miles has also almost 10 or 12 million members. So they're very, very close in terms of the size of the audience. I don't think Aeroplan has about 9 million people. I think Aeroplan has fewer members than those, but you have other places to look and compare. Speaking a meaningful language. Yes, offer makes sense. Rewards make sense. Travel makes sense. But do they make sense in the context of Air Miles? That's a question. Help. Yes, help makes a lot of sense from the label. But when you look at the content is on the help section, and for the reason that I said, few people will go to help, it's really a bad choice. And it should be at level 1, and some of those items should be at level 1 and not level 2. And this is where Air Miles should probably have more of a breadth. Bring some of those. I'm a collector and I have questions that are found on the help, but it's not questions. I don't have questions. I actually want to do this thing. So I don't need help. I actually want to see my miles. I actually want to see what can I do with my missing miles. I actually want to order a new card. I don't need help. Like, people don't think of that as I need help. They just want to do. So, and this is where they're failing big time. So very, very important. And there's a hand up. Dara? Dana. Dana. Yes, I can hear you.
So I just wanted to ask, at the first point, why this happens. Like, as an example, Air Miles are the site manager or whoever, like information architectures who are writing it or like, mapping the website. They don't pay attention to the words, or they don't constantly check via Google Maps, Google Analytics, and see like what's the, the bounce rate, or if they come to offers, they just jump out because they don't understand it. Maybe do they constantly check it and improve it, or they don't even pay attention, or
Great question. And I don't know if there is anybody that who works for Air Miles, and it's fine. It's not going to change my assessment of the business. And if there is anybody, then I would love to hear and hear about some insight. But yes, Dana, you're absolutely right. So we don't have a lot of insights, right? I don't know how they actually decided on the information architecture at Air Miles. I don't know who's creating the information architecture. First of all, I don't even know if they have a group of people that are in charge of information architecture. So I have more of I don't know than I know. But here's what I think might have happened. They might have someone who's in charge of IA, but I don't know their qualification. I don't know their experience. So maybe the experience, it could be an experience, right? So there's that. Let's say they're the top IAs, they're the best IAs. When you think of IAs, information architecture, and I said that all along, you make big decisions. You make really big decisions. And everybody feels in the business of Air Miles that they probably own the information architecture because they probably own the experience of signing up for the Air Miles program. So, and that means that they may actually really decide on how we call this area of anything that has to do with joining the program. They may have the ability or the accountability, or they have the final decision making on the information architecture, and they decide for that area. And that's what the business has decided. So the information architecture person may have done the best IA, may have done all of the card sorting, may have done all of the usability testing, may actually be doing the analytics, but you still have someone in the business who's responsible for getting as many collectors as possible, new people, and she owns it, and she believes that this is how she wants, and this is what she goes with. And unfortunately, it's her area. She owns the budget, she owns the results, she owns the performance, and that might happen as well. And you see that in a lot of organizations. So everybody owns a little pieces, and this is sometimes why you see that the site is so disjointed, because this person who's in charge of joining the program will make her own decision, and she may be very, very, very involved and say, this is what I want, this is how I want you to call these things, and I want you to put these in this order. And the IA has very little power or little influence. And then you're going to have the other manager who's in charge of maybe when the person becomes a member, and then she's in charge of that area, and it's up to her of how she delivers those experiences online. She has to make sure that it's available. She can decide, perhaps she decides on the label, and she decides where things are, and she decides where links are put, and then the IA has a little control on it too. And then maybe it's the same thing with the call center or the people that are in charge of support for help. So everybody may actually may have the full accountability to decide, and then the IA is pretty much left with little room to actually really help to be able to influence and come up with the best experience. Or maybe there's no data. You'll be surprised. Maybe they don't really understand analytics. Maybe they don't really understand how consumers actually use their site. Maybe they're not even aware that there are these challenges. Because in their mind, the site is actually, and I think that's a comment that I've made, if anybody in the business goes to Air Miles, or if I'm the one who owns the join area of Air Miles, I'm going to tell my boss that, yes, people online can join the program. They can go to offers, they can find out how they can sign up, they can join. But how it's delivered is terrible. But they're not going to say that. They may actually not even know that it's broken. They may not know. They may not understand why it's even broken and why people are not going to these sections that they've designed. I would suspect that they're not really aware that few people are going to the help section. They're where they should actually be able to find all of these things that they can do. And maybe they're getting a lot of phone calls, and they've been trying. And I will tell you, they made changes to their site architecture. I was on their site maybe 4 months ago. I actually spoke with someone at Air Miles. They wanted some consulting and some help. And then it was a little bit different. I don't think it was called help. I think it was called something different. I think they've removed some areas, some sections, but I don't think that they've done big enough of an exercise to really make a big difference. So it's multiple reasons, but we would only know if you were there. So I don't know if that answers your questions, Dana. And this is very good for you to know. Let's say that you want to apply to Air Miles in a job interview to get a sense of how they're structured. I will tell you, I know that their people on their team are very new, and because they were looking at hiring a VP of digital, and then they were trying to build this team, and they were trying to build a VP so that the VP could actually be at the table, just like anybody else who's making these big decisions. And my feeling is that VP will really need to be able to push back, and say and own the overall experience online. And unfortunately, maybe that's not what's had been happening. Everybody has been owning pieces of the program. They need to make sure that it's available online, but no one really is able to challenge online because no one owns the online in a holistic view. And I'm hoping that in the IE and as information architecture, you're going to come to a role and you're going to have that ability, and you'll be empowered to oversee the holistic experience for the customer and not look at it from little pieces. Look at it holistically so that it's actually consistent and makes sense to the user, to the customer who goes through different stages, so that his experience is consistent. But unfortunately, when you have someone who owns one section and someone who owns a second or third, and you don't have that governance, and you as the IE, you're not even allowed to actually challenge or make sure that it's all consistent and push back. And then at the end of the day, who's penalized? It's the consumer, right? A consumer in the business, because I think they have a lot of people that are probably calling the call center or not even able to do the basic things that they should be able to do. So multiple reasons. Now, it is intentional. I think it's not knowing or not having the data or not knowing what to look for to make sure that this is not happening. But and again, it's not a critique. It's just a very good example of a site that I think that is very much structured around the business, how they're structured internally. They can say, yes, we allow someone to join the program. Yes, we allow someone to look for their missing mile. Yes, we'll allow someone to look for their partners and the offers, how many points they get. But how it's delivered and how it's presented is terrible, terrible, terrible. I'll give you a very good example of what I think that they've done. Something at Air Miles, okay, so let's do a test, and then you guys can type in your answer, okay? So let's do a little test, and I will try to explain to you. I think what Air Miles has done is they're looking at a bunch of features, They're looking at features, and they're looking at features that they know, that they're familiar with. They're looking at features that make sense for their business, okay? So some of their features are called offers, rewards, travel, points, missing miles, missing points, transactions. But offers and travel make sense to them. They even have airmiles.ca, and they have a site called shopairmiles.ca. And that's at the very top, and that is in my report as well. How is different? How is airmile.ca and how is airmileshop.ca different? Why two sites? I think that's a sign that of legacy website. The current site was not, they were not able to support redemptions. And by redemption means for me to be able to take my points and consume my points, redeem. They use it, call it redeem. I don't know if Aeroplan calls it redeem. But airmiles.ca's website, probably at the beginning, did not allow or could not support for a consumer to do online redemption. And then to build online redemption on airmiles.ca was probably too labor intense and probably maybe even impossible. So they decided to maybe build a separate site where you could actually do redeem. And I think that's probably why they have completely two sites, and you will see at the very top. It's okay if the consumer eventually is taken to that site. But if you ask me as a consumer, do I pick Air Miles or do I pick Shop Air Miles? I don't know at this point, because shopping, maybe me thinking when I show my card, I'm actually shopping, I'm getting points, right? I'm shopping at Shell. I'm actually getting points. I'm shopping. I'm using my card. But them shopping for them at Air Miles means you're shopping to buy items using your points. You see, like we would have to really go deeper and deeper. And cart sorting would be a very good example. But what I would start with usability testing too. So some of you are doing usability testing with me. It would be a very good example of a site to do usability testing on. As well. And if anybody, well, I think it's a bit too late for anyone to choose Air Miles at this point, because I've given so much insight, and it would be unfair maybe to some other teams. But it would have been a very, very good site to use for some of your assignment, to even do the cart sorting as well, if you wanted. I'm not necessarily against it, but maybe all teams would need to do their own cart sorting. All teams, if you want it. We could do the, you could do, well, the cart sorting that I give you, I think I give you a specific site. So I've already gave you sites. So if there's an assignment coming up that I haven't given you site, maybe we could say all classes, we all use the same site, but let's see. But Air Miles may be a very good site to actually maybe consider doing some of the assignment, because I gave you a lot of insight, but then if all the classes then start with the same insight, then you guys can go deeper in your thinking. So are there any questions about categorizations or anything related to Air Miles? I also give you a lot of insight about Metro as well. And then there's the lab from yesterday, which is the comfort.to for Costco, is also to really force you to think about user goal, business goal, user goal, and then look at it from a user goal. And then the exercise talks about categorization, categories, choices that I've made, and I have put together a sample which I will be posted very soon as well to guide you. But it really starts from the user and the user goal, and then everything else comes around it. So we're going to do a whiteboard exercise. It's going to be a quick whiteboard exercise. What I will do is I will send you a link to Miro. Most of you have used Miro? You're familiar with Miro? It's a pretty cool tool. I can copy the link. Okay, great. So we're gonna have a whiteboard in Miro. Here's what we would like to do. So I'm gonna put okay. So I put the link for Miro, and you should be able to see Miro at this point, and I can see that we have some, wow. Okay, I've never used Miro yet. I've used another tool. I have not used Miro, and I know it's used a lot at Humber, so by all means, I'm not a specialist in Miro, but the tool is a tool. I know what I'm trying to do in this exercise, but I'm glad to see that you guys are already in, and I can see who's navigating. That's pretty cool. So what we want to do not look at a site yet. Let's think of a prospect customer. So we are deciding on the user goal, okay? So we're thinking of a prospect customer who's actually interested in either cars, travel, or maybe we're looking at a customer who's actually looking for an agency. He's looking for a new agency. Air Miles. Air Miles is looking for an agency. They know now that their site is probably broken because the teacher at Humber gave a lot of recommendations to a class of 60 students. And then one of them called them and said, "Hey, I think we could help you." So you're thinking of either buying a car or you're thinking of going on vacation. So let's not look at a site yet. So what we would like to do is we would like to do this. We would like to brainstorm, and then we're going to brainstorm as many content or ideas of categories of topics. So again, the context is categorization, and we want to start thinking about topics or ideas or content, or it could even be labeled whatsoever. So when you think of cars, when you think of a car site, when you think of a travel site, when you think of a web agency site, what other type of content or products or things that you think that user may want to do? And then you can think of there's some conventional as well, but car is very industry specific, right? The travel is very specific industry. The web agency is very travel specific industry. So let's think about what do we see as some of the labels. What do we think some of the categories or some of the content or product ideas that we should find on a car or travel or web agencies? And anybody is welcome to type in and put the ideas, and I will have fun to click on avatar to bring everyone to your screen. Click on avatar to follow. Okay. Oh, this is pretty cool. Good. Wow. And feel free to add new categories if you want to. Perhaps there might be more categories that you're interested in. As well. Awesome. You guys are on fire. I see a lot of people into travel, so I feel that several of you feel like going somewhere nice and warm. We can't wait for post-COVID, right? Okay. So yeah, I see that we're using new categories. This is awesome. I actually like Miro. Don't be too worried about the perfect label or the perfect tags or name at this point. It's really just to capture the ideas. This is awesome. I really like to see how. And don't worry if they're duplicates. You can actually add that we can remove the duplicates if we want. Great. Okay, so I think that I can see less movement. So that is probably a sign that we feel that we've kind of exhausted. It's okay if there are a few more items that we want to be adding as well at this point. Okay, so now let's see what I would like us to do. So here's what we should do now. So let me just share. Awesome. Thank you for being so engaged and participating in this. I think, well, I should know this class really like to get involved and busy with their mouse. And I remember the first day that I showed you. Okay, so what we should do now, do we notice anything that, well, let's look now. Let's go to a car site. So maybe you want to go to a car website, and maybe you want to think about. So let me go to a car website. I'm going to go to Honda. Okay, I'm going to look at Honda, and let's hopefully. Oh, Tesla. Okay, let's look at Tesla. So I'm going to open up Tesla. Great. Someone perhaps is looking for a car. So let's look at Tesla, and then let's see if there are any things that we've missed from Tesla by looking at Tesla. So we have a few fans of Tesla in this class. So perhaps we can look at Tesla. Interesting, they're positioning their car as electric car. And I can change my language. Great, I'm just gonna go to Canada English. So what you could do now, yes, they do have a very nice car, is let's see for cars, if there are any cars, any categories or any topics that we feel that we would like to that are missing that we should be adding to our cards. Sorry, I'm having some challenges switching cards and switching views. Okay. Great, you can buy online as well, huh? Awesome. And then you probably book an appointment. So I don't know if we had book an appointment as one of the options. It looks like I have to close Miro. Hopefully you're not going to lose it. I have to close Miro and come back. So let me do that. I'm going to, no, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to go back to Miro. Okay, so I can't see. Okay, I can see our cars. Great, great, great. It looks like there's a limit the number of students I can have in Miro. I only use a regular version, so maybe that's why. So I hope we don't have people that are left out. If we do, then what I can do is I can share. I'm going to share Miro on screen so that we don't have anybody who's left out, so that we can see what's happening on Miro. Okay, so let's look at Tesla for cars and see if there's anything that we feel that we need to add into our categories, gallery, interior, etc. Okay, so now perhaps if we feel that our categories are matching, or can we change color or add categories? We could probably also at some point, if we want to, use a different color for categories that Tesla is not offering that we think that may actually be relevant. Or is there anything, yeah. custom order, existing inventory, custom order, existing inventory, models. Okay, so we see models. Transmission, automatic, build your own. It looks like you have come up with a lot more options that I think Tesla is actually even supporting. Existing inventory, used inventory. Okay, so great. I think we did pretty good. You guys did very good. Anyway, there's no good or bad. It's what we think of when we think of car. It is what we think when we think of travels and then agencies. That's awesome. So, and again, the exercise is not to build a complete eyes or list of ideas of buckets, but I do think that we've captured a lot of items. So if we stick to cars, I think that obviously we've looked at items that I may want to do when I'm a new car. When we've said, let's think of items if I'm not a car owner and I'm actually looking for a car. But we could probably do a similar exercise if we were a car, but think about why would I go to a car website when I already have a car, right? And that could be multiple items and multiple reasons. So yes, maybe I do want to find a dealer. But maybe there's something else here that I haven't done that that I would want. Maybe I want to place a service. Maybe I want to place a service call, and what will that be? So we could go on and on and do that exercise. But starting from a user and starting from a user goal, from a user segment, which is that user who's looking for car, and then listing everything that we know is a good start. And then we look at Tesla, and then you look at Tesla, and you look at if I am the same user and I'm actually looking for a new car, for car ideas, a car inspiration, what can I do and what can I find on the Tesla's website? So, and then you see what they're offering and what they are giving as options to the customer, and then you can start listing. So you can start listing like we've done. So that would be one way to do it. Now, let's say that we've done this exercise and then we've now the next thing that we could do for us is we could then think about how do we start grouping the items that we would see on the cars. How do we start grouping items that we think that are related, that user would actually think of as belonging to one another, which then takes us to categorization, which we've been talking about. And then we may say, well, we're not car experts, so we're not car expert. But if we were to try now that we have a list of cars, let's see if we can actually try to maybe combine or group items that we think that belong to one another. So we still have about 17 people. So let's focus on cars because I think that's the one that we have the most. Perhaps we may want to think about how do we group or how do we bring together the items that belong to one another? So anybody is allowed to actually move those cards if you want. So trade in. So, oh, I'm not able to move. Okay, now I can move. Maybe I would say FAQs. Yes, yes, great. So, by the way, we're doing card sorting at this point. We're grouping items that we think belong together. Awesome. I really like how you guys are doing this. Very good. You've done this before. Yes, I can see that there's a group. There's a group for related to find a dealer, book a test drive, trade in. So it's like I need to somehow at this point, I need to go somewhere to dealer. But my goal is really to do something that has nothing to do with buying, right? But maybe finding a dealer may be relevant when I'm buying as well, which is okay. Get a quote, find a dealer, get a quote. And then we have shopping cart, models, specification, passenger capacity, style, color, check-in car in 3D, gallery, interior, and exterior. Yes, get a quote. Features, comparison feature, used car. Yes. Interesting. Awesome. So this moving items and trying to bring the items that we think are together is really what cart sorting is all about. So the difference here is I don't have one participant doing it at a time. There's many of you. So I can't really access your thinking, but I can do debrief after. I can choose to do that too as well. But you can do card sorting like the way we do it, or you could do one participant at a time, and then you actually ask them to tell you why they're making certain decisions, and you watch them just like the way I'm watching all of you. Yes, we have some car fads. I can see that. I have a car which I really love as well, and really, when you like your car and you have no issues with your car, you don't want to have to go to the car dealers. You don't want to have to go to the car website. But I spent a lot of time at the beginning when I was shopping. But so far, I don't really I haven't been to the car dealer. But there's an app that I use. I can lock my car. I can see my gas. I can track my car. I can do all of that from the app as well. Oh, wow, Jeff, impressive. My dad was a mechanical too at one point. He worked long days, long hours. Awesome. Okay, so this is cart sorting. We are doing cart sorting. Okay, so let's see. Feature build your own electrical fleet. Yes, the features, car. So there's shopping in this area. We have some shopping in the car models, color, gallery. We have some shopping items in features, comparison feature, build your own. Used is a very, very own distinct category. I think it's a decision you make, right? You want a new car, you want a used car. And then anything to do with financing, maintenance, financing, ROI, services and parts. Services and parts. I would almost be inclined to book that in here. Customer service and connect with a local branch. Interesting. I'm moving things around, but I don't know if it's okay. But you guys are all moving things around, so used car. Awesome. Great. Okay. So we're starting to see that there are cluster of content. And we are 20 people. We could do this with 20 other people. We could actually give them the same set of cards. We would start from fresh. That's the thing that I haven't done that you would definitely need to do in your card sorting assignment is make sure that you have the list or the complete list at the beginning, and you take almost like a screenshot of each stages. So the initial stages, and I should have taken a screenshot of the initial stages. Actually, once we had all of the labels, and then you would say participant one. You would ask them to resort, and you would ask them to group. Then you would take a picture of their final grouping, and you would say, this is what happened with participant one. Then with participant two, you would start from your starting board again with all of the same labels in the same order that you had, and then you would say group them. So they would do the sorting, and then you would say when they're finished, because you could ask them to really, continue, or when they feel that they're finished, then they tell you when they're finished. then you take a capture of that. You make sure that you capture it and say, this is what participant 2 has done, and then 3, and so on. Then you will look at commonalities from all the participants. Okay? Great, great, great. Okay, so this is good. I think we've done pretty good. You've done pretty good when it came to the exercise, coming up with names. And then we went back to Tesla. We look at Tesla. You would probably be looking also at BM, maybe, or similar car categories. So obviously here, we're designing, we said, a car website. But we could be designing for a specific car company. So let's say BMW. Then you would probably try to see if there's something. How does Mercedes, present the information and the content to their customer? Assuming that you think that the customer that will shop at BMW may be inclined to maybe look at Mercedes, maybe they would also look at Range Rover as well, or another luxury car. So you would probably maybe start with these 3, and then you would probably still want to look at Tesla, look at any other car, Lexus as well, because there are things that people have learned by looking at online, looking at the web, looking at the car industry overall, that they would have learned from each car companies that is in common that they would probably expect. And then there's obviously looking at online in general, what people expect. So we've focused, so far, we really focus on the categories that are specific to the car industry. But we could do the same thing for travel. We could do the same thing for the web agencies as well. Yes, Mert, the question about optimal sort is a software that you can use, and it's one of the software in the DAC for cart sorting that you can also use. I don't think it's free, but there's a trial version that you can use. I've never used it, but it looks pretty powerful. It helps you to do more, I believe, than Miro, and then maybe it keeps versioning as well. I think it's probably more advanced. But for what we are trying to do, I think Miro is a good start, but you just have to make sure that you keep like screen capture, or maybe there's a better way. I'm not a user. I haven't used Miro in great depth. Maybe someone else in the class knows more on how can we save the version. Maybe you call it participant 1. And you have the main, you have the starting, so maybe you have the main templates where everybody starts, and then when you're done, then you save it, participant 1, participant 2, participant 3, and then so here I would save. Here we would probably be done, and I would probably say I would probably save this as version number 3 or version number 4, depending on the participant. Yeah, you can also use screen capture, which I have done. I've done a screen capture with you guys. We're moving around. It was pretty cool to watch. And make copies. You can also make copies as well. But very important to have a template so that all your participants start with the same, and then they actually and then you save the final version. So me, if we were in a card sorting activities now, I would say great. If it's Mert, are you done? You tell me when you're actually done with your card sorting, and then Mert will say, yes, I'm done. I've completed. I think this is how we group. Then now we have a version of what one participant or Mert would actually group the different topics that we have. So questions. Have you done cart sorting, or had you done this kind of activities before? This is new for some of you. I'd like to know if you had any experience with cart sorting or something similar. Okay, great. So new, not new to Jeff, new for Dana. And okay, so any insight? So for anybody who's, yes, I think it's similar to affinity diagrams. Yeah, I would say. Any insight? So how difficult or how easy, or how was it? How was the exercise of going through trying to come up with labels, or trying to group them? Fun? Great. Fun is, we want to have fun. That is the most important. This is why we do all of this, right? Fun and engaging. Imagine, this is hard to do in class. Well, in class you would need physical cards, and we'd all be moving around, and it would be chaotic. Online has advantages. It was easier. So Was it very straightforward to come up with all the groupings, or there's some guessings, or sometimes it's our best estimates? Any insights on ease or difficulty of groupings or coming up with groups? I think it was relatively simple when I looked at the ease of each going into moving the items in areas that seem to be relevant or closely related. And yes, but when you keep the lens of a customer, to the best of your knowledge of that specific customer at that moment will help, but also what you know and what you think they would have seen or they would expect. So the goal, this is good. I think we have a good list of what a new customer or someone who's looking for a car would want to do. Now, we would probably spend more time on electric, on Tesla, maybe more time on other car website, and make labels. You could probably create new post-it of elements that you know that we haven't included, and then you could probably include and try to group them so that you would come to a point where you feel that you pretty much have all options or all topics or all options or all choices for a consumer that would probably be available to them that maybe your clients or your business would want. So maybe this is we're designing this for Honda, and Honda would actually be pretty happy with this, or maybe they're going to say, we feel that there's something moving, and then you just add them to your cart. And then you would go to cart sorting like we've done. So we've done this in class. Now, this cart sorting is called open cart sorting. I think that's the term. If you notice, we had no categories. We didn't have really names. We don't have a name. We don't have anything really to call these things, to group these things. Some of them may actually not be a category, like there might not be anything underneath it. Find a dealer. Find a dealer, for example, is a very good example of it's not just a category, but it's a specific user goal. So if you went through the readings that we have for this week about categories, or last week as well, particularly last week for categorization, there is not one solution. And sometimes you can actually categorize per topics or things that are related. Per topics, you can categorize them per user groups. You can use categories for tasks, like specifically what users are looking at doing. So find a dealer is a task. I just want to find a dealer. I want to get a quote. Get a quote is a very user task based. Models, car models is very relevant, right? Cars, new cars, used car. Those are your categories that are based on user goal as well and user actions. But then car is a category. It's a car. The car categories is a car. But then you have models, and we'll have different models like Tesla. Tesla actually, if you see, they have models, 3 models in them. They go right into models. They don't go, it's a car. They're selling cars. So in Tesla, you don't even need cars. But if you BMW, maybe you have cars, maybe you have motorcycles. So Tesla has removed the need for cars, and they are going right into the models 3, models 333, and then they have actions, right? I want to do a custom order, or I want to look at existing inventory. So so from the get-go, they give you the option to build your own. So you're kind of building. So I've seen build your own car versus maybe you want to look at an existing car that they have as well in the inventory as well. So, and on and on. But they've made choices, and it's okay. But so far, when we look at what they have and what you guys have looked at, custom order, learn more, and if we were to click on models, we would probably see a list of models. So we have some expectations. Now, you haven't come up with categories, and we haven't come up with labels or things to call the items that you have all grouped together on the board. That's okay. That's called the open sorting. So so the participants were actually grouping elements together without naming it and calling them anything other big items. You were just trying to group items that look similar. You could also do what we call a closed cart sorting, which is you would give categories and you would actually ask them. So I would say, maybe I would create a category called buy. And then I would say, please, students, group anything that is related to buy. And what you would probably end up doing is you would probably end up, you all items that you have in here would actually probably going to be all related to buy, right? Maybe I would have given you another category that would be called financing. So I would have given you a category called financing, and then you would have most likely group all of these items in that label. That is probably how you would have done. And then I would probably maybe change the color of my main categories, something different. So you would, at the beginning, you would have given them categories, and then maybe a different color for them to know. Sorry, not FAQ. Maybe FAQ is another category as well called different, or maybe it's called support. Maybe we would have called something support. And then maybe support, this was maybe where, I don't know. And then financing you would have given them categories as well. So this, if you would have done this from the get-go, before starting the exercise with the customer, and set group items that belong to financing the way that you've done it, this is a closed card. So you already have some categories in mind. And that's okay too. That's an option that you can also do. But then nothing stops you when you do your cart sorting with the customer, with the participant. They may say, why did we use financing? I don't think that financing is necessarily the best term. And then you say, why? Explain to me. And then they give you some insights, and then you make notes about it, right? And then maybe you're going to put a different color for items that are questionable. Maybe you want to use color coding and say, you know what, people had questions. Now, maybe there's a specific items that we don't really know where that item goes. And let's see if there's an item here. So when we think of features, comparison feature, build your own, cars, maybe I need features there too, right? Maybe this should be here. Maybe this should be in that area of buying. We don't know. So you would, you could park them and you could come back to them later if you want, or you could discuss these items with the participant and say, so, and you would tell them, you would say, for any items that you don't really know where they belong, just park them. Just keep them to the side. You may say, you know what, we're just going to bring them in all here in this area. And then you come back later. And then you can say, okay, great. So, well, talk to me about future releases. So what do you think of future releases would be? What is future releases? And then you get some insights on what I really tell you about future releases. And then you may discover that when they say future releases is the newest or coming card, the cards that are coming up. And maybe future releases is not determined. Maybe you want to call it something different too, and then you just relabel it as well if you want. So this is what you would do in the card sorting. And then, but then you have to understand, how do you color code it? How you want to color code it? How do you want to point these items that are outstanding, and maybe you just want to keep them out? Maybe you don't do anything with them. You just keep them out. But you note what the participant has said. And then the participant number 2 may have the same challenges. Maybe participant number 3 will have the same challenges. Maybe it's not going to be a challenge with participant number 2, maybe participant number 3 either, and it was just isolated to one. So at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to look for things that are in common. So you're going to do participant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 at 10, depending on the size of the users. But eventually, very soon, maybe after 4, 3, and 5, and I would say that that's probably similar to usability testing, you would see patterns and things that are in common, and maybe you're going to feel that you have enough insight, enough data to start building the buckets of content in the category, and then start thinking about your IA as well. And then maybe that's going to become the basis of your IA. Now, the intent of cart sorting is not to come up with the final categories. It's not to come up with the final groupings. It's not to come up with the final labels either. But it's really to get a better sense of how close are you to information architecture that will actually be very, very close to the users, and how the user actually think about the industry, how users think in general about your product after you've met 10, after you met 15. There's a number. After a certain number, the return on investment is not there. The insight that you're gonna get is so unique it's not worth the spending the time and the money and the time with the participant and the money versus what you will have discovered very early on with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that is the same as we see in usability testing. So that will become your foundation. And then you're going to start building your IA. And then you're probably going to think about maybe the labels. Maybe you're going to think about where maybe certain elements were. But you're going to be the one making the final decisions. But at least you're not going to go as blind. You're going to go with insights from your user. You will have gone inside their head. You will have heard them. You will have listened to them. You will have taken notes, and you will have done a debrief, and you will then have a report and say, this is what we think the IA or the basis of the information architecture should be based on. Here are the categories. Here are some of the items that we found that actually belong. So you would say buy, and there's a set of actions that are about buying. There's a set of action that has to do with financing. There's a set of action that has to do with finding a dealer or services or car, book a test drive. So book a test drive, trade in, get a quote. Yes, they might be, maybe some of them will be at the top level, top navigation, but we don't know yet about the placement and where they will be about placement. So at this point, we're not thinking of placement. We're just really thinking about categories and grouping and items. I think we've done very good in a very, very short amount of time. So a few questions, like you said, okay, is it common to record video of card sessions? So yes, you should. You can record. I would record a session, and in fact, you're going to be doing card sorting remote, right? So you could be recording your session. You can use any tools that you want, Zoom, Teams. I would record a session. Maybe you want to put the user on cam too. You can see their face, where they're going. You definitely want them to share, but here we were on the screen, right? So we're sharing Miro, but you would want to make sure that they're sharing the screen so that it's being recorded on Teams or it's being recorded on Zoom. So right now, my session with you is being recorded, and we see what is happening on Miro because I'm sharing Miro inside the tool. So I can see the final stage. Actually, I can see the beginning stage. I just have to go back to the session, right? So really, think of it. If you're recording, then you go back. But it's probably better to have your final cart sorted exercise like this. So here I would save, and I would probably I should save this and say final, I would say participant 1, right? And then now I have my cart sorting participant 1. And then I have to do my masters. I have to redo my master. Now, here's really, really cool with cart sorting. Let's see if I can show you. Is if you use Excel, okay? So if you go from Excel, and I have given you in the assignments that we have in the lab, the Excel, the list of all the labels. So I didn't give you the cards in Miro, but I give you the content, the topic, the content ideas in an Excel. And when you do copy paste in Excel in Miro, it actually creates cards. So it's really, really nice. I'll show you. I have an example of, and I don't know if it's this with class. Oh, card sorting demo. So my goal this morning was to do a demo as well with one of you, but I've done it. We've done it together. So here, I've done these cards. What I have done is I went into Excel and I just copy paste. And maybe it works not just from Excel. Maybe it works from email or Word. You copy paste the cell elements and then you go paste into Miro. It actually puts them into cards like this in a nice little order. So that is your starting point, right? So this I would call my cart sorting start. And that is probably what I would show to all of my users. And then I would only save my final, participant 1 final. So what you would do is you would want the participant to feel that the participant has done everything, right? He's gone through, and at some point you want him to say, I'm done, I'm complete. But you let them do, but you can make notes of maybe where they're having challenges. You can have them to think loud as well as they go. And then you can ask for more information at that point where maybe they're struggling. So that's one way as they do, you can ask, but it's a little bit more interrupting. Or you can wait, and at the end you can debrief with them. And you can debrief and ask them specific questions of things, that challenges that they had, and you want them to put aside where maybe the cards that they don't really know where they would go as well. And then you can find out more, get more insight from them. And you don't necessarily have to put them now into a bucket. You could leave them. You could leave them out and then see if other participants are having challenges out as well. So we could very well say, we do a card exercise with this, and then we end up leaving on this side some items for the clothing. We could very well decide that we have some items that we were just not really 100% sure, but we have on sales, we have tops, and then we have groupings, and then we may find that maybe we found that this is what the users have done. This is not a good one. And then buy, track order, very different, contact us, very different, jobs. And maybe this is going to be by cart sorting. This is maybe what one of the participants will give you. Maybe the board of director, sweatpants, footwear, sweatpants, kids, man, lunar year. Yes, so this, I don't know what to do with this item. And then maybe you want to use color coding. Maybe you want to use red as well if you want, because we just don't know, or we're just going to put them in yellow. Home, my tops, swimwear, footwear, Feb arrival, spring collection, Feb arrival, sweats, and join a newsletter, and the closest door. Maybe I have woman here, my annual report, my board of directors. I want to do my returns, my store. And maybe I feel like there is, and then buying, maybe this is my buy. And maybe this is what you're going to find. Maybe that's one of the cart sorting. Done, you're done. And then, but that was, I call it my sort, but now I don't have my start anymore, but I would have to have save and then say participant one. So you think that you understand, and it's very, very nice. Yes, that you can paste from Excel into Miro easily. That's how I did for this, and this is a retail website as well. So it's 12:07. Let's go through what I had included in the cart sorting deck for today. I want to make sure that we haven't missed anything. Let's see. And you will, the more you do cart sorting, the more comfortable you'll become, okay? Now, if you've done usability testing, do we have a lot of people that have done usability testing? I know some of you are in my class for usability testing. Do we have anybody who's done usability testing? Learned to do usability testing in the past? Great, yes, awesome. So, yeah, so you're going to be familiar with yes, it's a full course. So I'm teaching usability testing as well. You are, I would say, up to the point that you go to Miro and you do the cart sorting. Everything that you've learned in the usability testing. Why are we doing cart sorting? What are we trying to really understand? We'll tell you, do I need to be very formal, very informal? How many participants do I bring? Maybe you just want to do the cart for someone who's actually thinking of buying. So maybe you just need 5, 4, 6 people. And hopefully you're going to see patterns very quickly. You see, we were 19. I don't think we had too many challenges of grouping items, right? It relatively went well, but you would do one participant at a time. In your assignment, we're going to talk more about the lab tomorrow, but this is what we're going to do in the lab tomorrow. So what we've done today, you're going to do in the lab setup on your own. And one of you will lead. There'll be a participant, and maybe you're going to have a note, someone who's going to take notes as well. But you're all going to have to facilitate. You're all going to have to play the participants as well, and then, but up to the point that you go to Miro, you're going to follow what we've done in usability testing. So you're going to have a pre-screener If you do formal, where you invite people external, you're going to have a pre-screener, you're going to have an incentive, you're going to have to introduce them. Then on the day of the sessions, they're going to come, and then you're going to have to introduce them yourself, introduce the exercise. The chances are a lot of people never done it, right? So they've never done a cart sorting. So let's say that you bring external customer. Yes, Nelly, if you bring external customer to do this kind of exercise, let's say you work for Air Miles. We talk about Air Miles. Do you see the value of doing this with Air Miles? And well, first I would say go through the samples, and if you've done the lab, then I'm sure you've seen challenges. Then you bring in participants, and the participants, if you bring a customer, they want to be paid. So anywhere $75 to $100 an hour. And then if you don't want to go as formal, but you want to do a preliminary cart sorting to guide you, because you're very, very not too comfortable or not too familiar with the industry, then you may very well choose to maybe do it internally with people that don't really know your project. So you're not as formal, you're not paying incentive, but at least you're getting some feedback or some sense of how accurate is your IA, or what you were thinking of the IA, or what you're thinking about how you would design your site based on what you know so far on your cards. And then you could do with people that don't know your project. So that is one way to start. Now what you could do is you could do that informally with people inside. You could do with friends and family as well, if they fit your audience. And then eventually, once you have a product that is still in the wireframe, maybe you're going to have wireframes, maybe you're going to have information architecture, you're going to have wireframes, and maybe you're going to have a prototype, and then you're going to take it on to real participant, real user. Maybe that's all of what you're going to do, but at least you've done your curriculum some insight beyond what you think. But in the user beta testing, hopefully you're going to capture some of the challenges that maybe Elmas would have captured, that they haven't, they went right live, right? Or perhaps they have done. So yes, so what you want to do is you can involve employees, but you want to try to involve people that don't really know your project, know your product, okay? But then you go into Miro, and you'll do with a participant what we have done, and then you go through the session. The goal is you want to try to get them to do as much on their own. You don't want to tell them, hey, what about this? This is leading. You would be influencing them, right? You let them go, like I did, right? But if we were one-on-one, then I would ask the participant to actually try to think loud. So I would have asked you to say, okay, great, do the cart sorting for retail. So let's do the cart sorting for retail. And then I'd like for you to think about group the items. And then as you go through, then tell us loud what you think. Then I would have said, okay, great. So the home should be by itself. Closest store. So store is an item on its own. On sale, I think it's an item that people would want to be on. See when I come to the site itself. Spring collection, February arrivals, they're kind of related. Kids, men, women, they all have something to do with buy. So I'm going to group them together. Returns, I think returns is so unique. It's a unique things that I just keep alone by itself at this point. If I had a card that says track order, then maybe I would put that there, returns, track order, because I think it's related. So you're getting inside of how I actually think these two things are linked. So as they do the sessions, right? Then you record the sessions, and you can take notes, and then you have an observer that can do the same. And then you say, are you done? They say, yeah, I'm done. Then you can debrief. So that would be the process. And then you would, give them the incentive, and you give them a release form that says, I acknowledge I have received $50 for my participation. And then obviously you would tell them, the card sorting exercise is to not test. We're not testing you. There's no right or wrong answer. We're not testing you. We actually want to understand how you could say we're actually in the process of redesigning our website, or redesigning a website for maybe a company. You may not even tell them the company. And if you don't have to, then I wouldn't. And I will tell you why. Maybe it's better not to tell them the company, because they may go back to Air Miles. Let's say if you say, I work for Air Miles, and they are an Air Miles customer, but you will know if you want to bring Air Miles customer, if you want to bring non-Air Miles customer. In fact, you would probably bring two type of customer. Maybe you want to bring the non-Air Miles customer, because maybe they want to test the experience of joining. Maybe they want to test the experience of someone who's an Air Miles customer. And then it's going to be, your cart sorting will be very different. The cards will be probably very different. They'll understand. They will probably better understand your business. So, but you probably want, at those customers, you're probably going to tell them that you're actually designing. An existing air miles customer, I think it will be hard to tell them that you're not designing for air miles. But if you're trying to design the program for air miles for a new customer who's not, maybe I would say maybe it's better not to tell them that it's air miles. But you want to tell them that the site is about a new loyalty program. For a company that is a loyalty program, a new site where you actually you may want to tell them little. You may actually want to show them the cards and say, what do you think this site is? So we're doing an exercise to rethink or think about the type of content, think about the options, think about the feature, whatever that is available. And I have some script. I give you some script in this week's reading that will help you with this. But the less you tell them, the better. But you have to give them just enough. But you could very well show the initial deck and say, this is the card sorting. So you could have shown, let's say that I save a copy. You could say, here's the initial cards. I will show you some cards, and then your task is actually group together the cards that you think that belong. But before we start that, before you move, before you even use the mouse, then I would say, take 5 seconds. So take 20 seconds to actually go through the cards, and then they take the cards, and then you say, you tell me when you're good, and then you'll say, what do you think this site is about? Then you'll get some insight, right? That will be very powerful. So you didn't tell them it was air miles, but you'll get a sense. You're already going to get a sense. You're going to say, well, I think this site is about, they're probably going to say, I think this site is about travel. Travel, I'm going to travel. I'm going to, yeah, there's a travel section, offer, maybe the special deals, maybe the special offer, rewards. Rewards, maybe I get points when I actually travel with this company, help when I need help with my bookings. You're going to get so much insight. You're already going to know how aligned, close are they to what you think each of those cards mean and what they mean versus what they actually even thinking when they come. And then they're going to, but you don't say anything at that point. You let them in that mindset. That is an option that you can do as well. You're going to get more insight. The less you give them, I think the more you're going to get, but you need to find that balance of giving them enough as well so that they understand what they're grouping. But really, when you think of it, when they come to, if you come to air miles, you've never heard of air miles, they're going through a similar process, right? The difference here is you're trying to, for them to group the items that they think that belong together based on their experience. So, but the intro and how and the after is very similar to use about testing. So we talk about card sorting. We talk about how do we even arrive to card sorting. So last week we were talking about categorization, and then this morning we've said, okay, so let's think of cards. You've actually designed for pretty much from scratch. You thought of card, what you know about cards. You come up with cards. So we had cards. So you have to have cards, and then you want them to regroup, to sort the cards in order, in a grouping or order that makes sense to them. Then you can record, you can actually make notes. You can repeat 8 to 10 times if you want. You could do one card sorting and then start all over with them again if you wanted. And I would say I've done a mix. Sometimes I would do what we've done, but you could reshuffle and you could ask them to regroup. And you could ask them to regroup. And then you will see if they're actually grouping things, if you're getting to a point that it's pretty much all very similar. But in your lab, in your assignment, you could try with 1 or 2 participants to maybe do what we've done in class, groups, and then when you're done, you tell me, and you can reshuffle and do another grouping, reshuffle and do another, and see if you get better results of different results. That would be something that you may want to experiment. I would record the session. So here is, like, card sorting was done 25 years ago. And then everything can be, and then everything was done at the time on physical cards. But with digital now, we're using the technology and the mirror technology. But this is very similar. Now they're using labels. They're using actually categories, and they've set to the user to probably brainstorm. But you've already brainstormed. We brainstorm. But when you come to the participants, you have to give them cards with 50. And for your assignment in the lab, which will be tomorrow, it is, I believe, 50. But the 50 seems to be a high number, but it's not. Here we have 20, I think, or 25 cards. So 50 is really not a lot. I think you guys probably came up with 50 on the for the car example. So these are visuals of what you would do. So when do we use cart sorting? So you will use them to get insight. You really want to get insight about the users. And then when you want to redesign the architecture, when you want to do navigation design, because when you think of placement of maybe elements or desired functionality, right? So you had the opportunity for cars to do all of this. You thought about what else, what should be the topics, what should be functionality, what should be features. But you can ask the participant as well in the session uh, to list features at the beginning or feature at the end. You can do at the beginning like we did. You could say, here are 20 cards for a reward programs or for a travel website, for a car website. Take a look, blah, blah, blah. Now, you can ask them, do you think there are any cards that are missing? You could do that at the beginning, or you could not do that at the beginning. You could maybe do the sorting as we've done. Then when they're done with the sorting, you may want to ask them, is there you didn't see that is not available that you think should be available? And maybe that's a simple way, because I think sorting is easy. And as they sort, they're going to become more familiar with the cards. So you're helping them. Now, in usability testing and card sorting is the same thing. You want to start with the easy thing so that they don't feel, because they're going to be stressed. They don't feel that they're being tested. First, you have to tell them, this is not about you. This is about us. We just want to gain insight. So there's no wrong or right answer. We're not testing you. Here's some cards. Please sort them. Sort them in order you think that would make sense to you. Then when they're done with that and they feel like they've done the best that they could, or they've done what they, has naturally come to them, you can do the debrief if you want. You can already do the debrief. Now, after the debrief, if you want, then you can say, okay, were there any elements that you didn't see that that you would expect to find on the cars? So then they're going to say, well, I didn't see the ability to custom. I did not see the ability to find a dealer. I did not see the ability to save my car. Depending on how much they know, some of them will give you maybe very, very detailed insight. Then you make note of these new cards, and you would capture that as well. And I think that is in the assignment as well, so that you can see what the gap, if there was a gap on what you thought, and then what the participant has seen as missing. So very, very insightful planning. So you create your cards, you have to recruit the user. For your assignment, you have to do cart sorting, and you have to recruit people that are outside of the department. You have to do the cart sorting, and that will be the assignment that will be due, I believe, next week on the Fab 10. But don't quote me on that. Make sure you go to the assignment. But I think it's next week. But you have to do this with people that are outside. So very, very important to understand. And then at the lab tomorrow, you're going to have a chance to do the lab in the session in the morning. So you don't want to interrupt, you don't want to help, you want to remain objective, right? You don't want to be biased. So all the things that you've learned, you don't want to lean them. Otherwise, what's the point? And you're not doing this to give yourself a tap on the shoulder, because at the end of the day, if you are air miles and you launch a site like this, you fail. You're actually not going to get your bonus, right? So, and then at the end, these are questions that you may want to use, right? With them when you debrief. So if I could do this with all of you, I ask you, I said, so how was it? But I think it was too large of a question. But you can say which item appeared together most often, which item, this would be you in your analysis, sorry. You would look at items that have appeared often, the ones that have maybe they've struggled classifying. So this is where you could ask them and say the ones you're having challenges, just leave them out. And then maybe at the end you color code them if you want, right? Are there any new suggested labels that were made? They're gonna say, buy a car. I don't know why we use buy a car, for example. Or there was something, I think the example this morning, there was a label that suggests that maybe we're looking at new inventory, but it was something else. So you capture as much as you want, and through the verbiage or in your debrief. But these are things that you would be paying attention to your analysis, that you need to report into your assignment as well. And then there's many variations. As we said, open sort, close sort. Open sort, you don't have categories. You don't ask them to put them under a category. where in the closed sort, you will ask them to put them in new categories. I would be more inclined to go open sort, like we did, because then you can think of a category later. You could ask them at the end, say, okay, how would you label or how would you categorize? If you could categorize this item, how would you call these items, these groups of items? You could very well do that. These are all the tools that you can do, that you can use, and then you can really go from copy paste from here. I don't have the animation here, but there's animation as well, but I don't think it's just available in PowerPoint. But you can copy paste from Excel and into Miro, and it will create some beautiful cards. So we've done two things at the same time. We actually worked hard this morning. We came out with a bunch of categorization. You create cards. You create the cards for your site. In the assignment, I give you cards. I already give you the labels. I give you the topics. You don't even have to think about the cards, okay? So that's that. You don't have to do it. But you have to create the cards. You're going to have to copy paste from the Excel sheet to Miro and then start from a fresh set of cards with each participant. And then you can ask them to sort. And then you can ask them, once they're done sorting, then you can say, great, now that you sort, are there any items you think that are missing? Items they had challenges with, you can use color coding if you want. There's more instruction in the cart sorting. But tomorrow is all about doing a cart sorting in the lab. You have to submit the cart sorting. So you can start the lab today. You can do the lab in the afternoon. But tomorrow morning, it's only going to be about the lab. I'll be here. I'll be available. We're going to start at 10:45. I'll give you support for the lab during the lab. I can answer any questions that you might have. It's 12:25, so I think we're at the end of our session, but let's just make sure the time. Yes, so 10:30, we still have a few more minutes. Are there any questions about cart sorting? So everything is about cart sorting this week. The readings about cart sorting. There's a chapter that talks about cart sorting. There's some chapters in the textbook, but there's PDF for cart sorting. There's a sample script for cart sorting, and then tomorrow's lab is about cart sorting. So you're going to do what we've done today, but on your own with your teams. And I hope you find it fun. It's actually fun. It's a fun technique to build good eyes, or at least a baseline for your eye, and it's based on real user, and it's very simple, relatively simple. We've done cart sorting in an hour. I think we were done in about an hour cart sorting. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy. I'm going to be around for a few minutes, and but I have a 10:35 class. So if you choose to stay and ask for questions, you're welcome to do now if you want, and but I will have to stop at some point because I have to jump into my other class, like I'm sure others have too as well. And if there are any questions that you can't add, you don't know now, but you will come later, then please send me a course message, and we'll see you tomorrow at the lab. So thank you for participating. It was fun to see the class, and everybody's moving around with the card. So I hope you'll have a good end of day. So we'll see you tomorrow.